Board of Independent School District 624. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Newberg.
Here.
Newmaster.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Chapman.
Here.
Fahey here. Kimball.
Here.
Mullen.
Here.
And would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'm going to step over to the podium, and I would like two young people, Brianna Sherrick and Hakeem Martins, to join me, please. It's been the custom of the school board in White Bear for the last several years to have a student liaison to the school board. And we traditionally have both a primary student liaison and an alternate. And this year is no exception. We have two wonderful young people to serve for the school board this year. We ask our student liaisons to provide input and feedback to the school board from a student's perspective on a lot of the issues that come before the school board. We also have one or more projects that we're going to ask our liaisons to work on behalf of the school board this year. So I'd like to introduce our primary student liaison, Brianna Sherrick, and I'm going to ask each of the kids to just say a few words about themselves. So Brianna.
Hi everyone, my name is Brianna Sherrick. I go by Bree to my classmates. I'm a senior at White Bear Lake Area High School. I also participate in our cheerleading program here. I'm one of the captains for this upcoming season, and I'm also one of the Link Crew student coordinators, so I help out with adapting our ninth graders to our split campuses and our buildings. I also participate in our Mariners Choir, so directed by Ms. Dimmitt, so I'm really looking forward to singing a lot this year and also being a part of something inside school. I also have two sisters and two brothers who are all from White Bear Lake. And I've been in White Bear Lake all my life. I went to Otter Lake, and I attended Central Middle School. And I'm really excited to be on the school board.
Thanks, Brianna. And our alternate this year, who will be appearing on the board dais whenever Brianna can't, and will be attending state funerals and doing all those other things that vice presidents do, is Hakeem Martins. Hakeem, would you like to say a few words?
Hello everybody, I'm Hakeem Martins, and I've been in this White Bear Lake district since kindergarten. And through this journey of being in White Bear, I've been blessed to be part of the AVID program and also playing football for White Bear also. I've also part of the CEO program with Mr. James Barnett, who is not here today. But yeah, we do a lot of community service and college stuff and things like that. Also, I love art, and I'm an art guy, always in Mr. Gritzmacher's room working on something. Write poetry, love music. I'm here to, speak up for my fellow classmates and, make a change. So, thank you guys for having me.
Well, we're really looking forward to working with Bree and Hakeem this year, and it's so important to stay hydrated while you're working. So we have an official orange water bottle for each one of you. So, thanks so much, guys. Thank you. All right. All right, we have before us an agenda for this evening's meeting, which we've had an opportunity to review. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Wilson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Chapman. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we have an agenda. We also have before us a consent agenda, which consists of a number of items that come before the board on a routine basis every month. some personnel items, financial items. We also, though, every month have a resolution to accept gifts which have been made to the school district. This month is no exception. We have a number of different individuals and entities that have provided very generous gifts to the school district, including individuals and churches that provided backpacks full of school supplies to get our young kids off to a good start this year. And we also received $5,000 from the United Way. So, with that said, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wilson, and this calls for a roll call vote.
Newberg,
Aye.
Newmaster, Wilson,
Aye.
Chapman,
Aye.
Fahey, aye. Kimball,
Aye.
Mullen.
Aye.
And the consent agenda is approved. Now is the time for public forum. That's an opportunity for any members of the public to address the board on any issue of interest or concern to them. We do ask people who wish to address the school board to complete a card. Cards are located on the table against the far wall, and bring them up to the dais before the meeting. I don't see any cards up here. Is there anyone here tonight who would like to address the school board? All right, seeing none, we will go on to our next item. And that is item C1, Career Pathways in the News. Dr. Lovett.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'd like Gretchen Harriman, principal at our ALC, to come forward, and she has two guests with her this evening, two students who participated in the construction trades internship program this summer. As I said, we've been in the news, and I know we have two young men here who are eager to visit with you and answer questions. That may not be wholly true, but we're very happy to have them here.
Welcome, Ms. Harriman.
Mrs. Harriman.
Thank you. We had the opportunity this summer to participate in the Minnesota Trades Academy, and this was a joint partnership between the Construction Careers Foundation and the St. Paul Building Trades. And what they did was, the idea is to provide a pathway for students to explore the construction trades and get paid for exploring it. So the gentlemen who are with me, Bailey Haglund and Austin Hansen, had the opportunity to work for 9 weeks and get paid to explore 15 different trades. So this involved 24 students, men and women from Minneapolis, St. Paul, and White Bear Lake. And what I would like to do is give them the opportunity to talk a little bit about what that was like for them. So I'd like you two to step forward, if you don't mind. And one thing that I was hoping that you could speak to, and it could be one or both of you, but what was a typical day like for you? And maybe we can start with that.
The typical day was just like if you were working on construction. Like on the site, it was 8 to 3, or I mean, kind of went around every once in a while, but yeah, for the most part, just 8 to 3, and we had transportation, and it was super, super good.
So were you sitting in a classroom?
Like the training centers, like they have classrooms, but they also have like bays where it's just like kind of like simulated work sites where you can go into and just try out everything they have. So it's very good.
Okay, and so it was hands-on learning for all of them. So they went to the sites, they actually did the work.
Yep.
Some days you came back exhausted, and when I'd ask you questions, you just were too tired to talk.
Yeah.
There were experiences in places like bricklayers, electricians, laborers, pipe fitters. So knowing that you visited those, do you have a favorite one or two you could talk about, and why that one was important for you?
I really like the Boilermakers and the pipe fitters because I like heights and I like welding, so they go good together.
Hopefully.
Austin?
I like the bricklayers and the pipe fitters because my grandpa and my uncle and my dad are bricklayers, and I really like welding for pipe fitting.
And both of these gentlemen are finishing their high school requirements during the course of this year. So this really provided them a summer where they could step back, think about what direction they're headed after high school. So when you think about this year and how you're finishing up your high school experience with us at ALC, what do you see as maybe different as a result of that, or how do you see your pathway clear and what direction you're heading?
Well, I was kind of scared to get out of high school just because I know, like, I'm not a huge fan of school, and I was not looking forward to college. So this way I can earn and learn and find out what I like and what I'm passionate about, so the time will just fly by and be good. So I like doing stuff with my hands and being outside and just all that stuff. So it's
probably, what is it?
So what are you
God, I can't
thinking?
think of it right now. Well, before I went into this program, I didn't know that there was this many trades. So I'm kind of happy that there's a good choice.
So it was a great opportunity for them to get up every day, get to a work site, work hands-on, work hard all day, and get a taste of some jobs that they're definitely interested in, and some that they've come back and said, okay, that one was not for me.
yeah.
So I'm really proud of them for being on a good career path and having a more clear idea of where they're going when
And
they leave us.
I think the best part was it's just every 2 days you go to a different trade. So say if you don't like one, you're only going to be there for another day. So it's all right.
Do you have any other questions?
Well, Bailey and Austin, I know you were not real eager to be speaking in public, but you did a fabulous job. We're so happy you could join us. I also wanted to point out that Board Member Don Mullen was very heavily involved in establishing the Trades Academy and providing the opportunity that you two had this summer. Do any of the board members have any questions or comments for Bailey or Austin or Ms. Harriman? Mr. Mullen?
So you guys talked about welding. What did you like about it? Did you get to pull the torch out any?
Yeah, we used the acetylene torch, and then we used we did arc welding and then the wire-fed one. I forgot what it was called. But yeah, we did mostly just stick welding and stuff like that, and just used all different types of rods and stuff. So just kind of got familiar with it a little bit, enough to know if you don't like it or you do. So that's perfect. So.
We will have the opportunity to revisit the welding too, because the CCF did provide a welding simulator that's shared among the secondary schools. So we have that simulator that our students will be able to access actually at all high school sites this coming year.
On behalf of the board, I'd just offer the both of you our congratulations and best wishes for your future plans.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Any other questions or comments for Bailey or Austin? Oh, Mr. Kimball.
Yeah, so you talked about, it sounds like you really liked welding.
Yes.
Which one didn't you like?
I really didn't like the cement masons. That was my big thing. It was just carrying around concrete and wait for the truck. Just pouring a bunch of wet concrete, and then you got to finish it, and you got to get on your knees, and you just got to do a whole bunch of stuff, and it just kind of wears you out all around, everywhere. It's just.
And Austin?
Probably the tile setters, because I'm not kind of a critique person.
And then you had the opportunity to be on your crew included St. Paul students?
There was I would say 9 or 10 other kids from St. Paul, and they had the first 2 days, because you really don't know how many people you're going to be working with, so they just put you in a room for orientation. You kind of get to know each other. And then every Friday too, well, not every Friday, but I would say every other Friday, you go on a tour. So we actually went out to sites, and we went to the I think it was the Science Museum, where they're putting in all that stuff. We went all through there and seen what they were doing, and where else did we go?
CHS field.
Yeah, the CHS field, and look through all the just everything inside of it, how everything works with the field getting watered, just everything. So it's not just hard labor or strenuous. It's actually just easy going. So I liked it a lot.
Any other questions for our young men? Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight, Bailey and Austin. You represented the Trades Academy well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we'll turn to information item C2, and that is an update from the Educational Foundation. Dr. Lovett.
Madam Chair, we have one other item in the news with the manufacturing pathways This was a double item.
A double item, all right.
So I'll ask Mr. Wald to come up forward, and Delroy, Rich, would you please come up as well? So less than 2 weeks after we were able to celebrate the graduation of our students in the Construction Trades Academy, we participated in a roundtable with our Senator Franken. Senator Franken had come 4 years ago to meet with community members, community leaders, businesses, economic development, and education about workforce development, and he was coming back to hear what was going on. We found out just a couple of days before Senator Franken came that Secretary of Labor Thomas Perez was going to be with us as well. And White Bear Lake Area Schools and our Pathway program were one of the items to be featured. So I asked Mr. Wald to begin describing what our talking points were and why this was significant for our school and for our students. Mr. Wald.
Thank you, Dr. Lovett, Madam Chair, members of the board. Pleasure to be here tonight. We had a really great opportunity, really thanks to our good connections with the White Bear Chamber of Commerce, who invited us to participate in a roundtable discussion with Senator Franken and Secretary Perez, and Dr. Lovett moderated the panel. It consisted of representatives from higher education, industry, and K-12 education. So really all people who would be interested in workforce development in our community had a voice at that table. It was interesting to hear the opening comments by Senator Franken and Secretary Perez and their passion about workforce development and opportunity for all young people, and that from Senator Franken's point of view, that here in Minnesota, we keep our talented people in Minnesota because there's a gap between the skilled labor and skilled positions that exist and the numbers of people who are ready to fill those positions. So I shared with them what we've been working on in White Bear Lake with our industry partners, the Venice Heights Economic Development Corporation. Ling Becker was present, as was Tom Snell in the Chamber of Commerce, and shared with them what we were doing in our career pathway work. And that's about trying to find, working with industry for which there is a promise for jobs in the future. Secretary Perez referred to this as train and place. Let's figure out where we can place people and train them well so they can be placed, as opposed to what he used to call train and pray. Train and then pray there's a job for what you trained people for. So I think his comments fit in nicely with what we're trying to do with career pathway work. We're also looking to partner with industry for which there is a sustainable wage job, so that when our young people leave us, they enter a career field for which they can enter the middle class, support a family, and have a sustainable wage career. Secretary Perez made reference to zip code should not determine one's destiny. And so regardless of your zip code, industry, K-12, higher ed, all working together can ensure that all young people are able to maximize their talents and their gifts for opportunity, and that we strengthen the middle class America. And then finally, we are concerned about that within our career path, is there opportunity for college credit, and are there opportunities for credentials along the way. So that's part of our design, and we shared that with them, and the industry partners just echoed what we were saying. So it's a good thing that we're all on the same page, I think, in that regard. We also had with us Delroy Nyreen, a tech ed teacher at South Campus. I'll introduce him in just a second. And Dexter Penn, who's a student in our manufacturing program. Dexter wasn't able to join us tonight, but really an eloquent voice at the table. And when young people speak at events like that, people want to hear what they have to say. And Dexter said great things about these next two individuals, Delroy Nyreen and then our career navigator, Rich Wessels. I'll introduce Delroy.
Welcome, Mr. Nyreen.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. On behalf of Dexter, just to give you a perspective of what he brought to the table, one of the things that was impactful is, one, having that student at the round table and just hearing that voice. And it got to be a little bit kind of humbling a little bit, but there was a really, really neat perspective that Dexter talked about the classroom environment and talked about talked at working with Mr. Wessels, the career navigator. I found out, I knew this, but I really found out from Dexter that Mr. Wessels is the Mr. Nice in the classroom. And then my responsibility for my classroom is I'm the kind more of the hammer. I say, hey, let's get a little better at this. And it was a really, really nice, elegant way that Dexter brought that to the table, saying having two different type of teachers in there, two different roles, really accentuated that classroom, and brought different elements to it. And that's where that career navigator piece with Mr. Wessels is an important and valuable piece. My role is to talk about what we're doing with the classroom settings in White Bear Lake. And so it was really nice to hear Senator Franken's little intro into what this is all about, because we're heading in the right direction. We have some very, very common ideas about where that skill attainment is, using our industries to help develop what skills should be taught in the classroom and how they apply. And that was the real big takeaway. I talked about a little bit of the connective component where not necessarily using high skill worker, because that has so many variables to it, is really trying to get down to the nitty gritty of what skills are valued and what are needed. Today in the Star and Tribune was another article about developing those skills in the classroom and those connections, and they made reference to the Dunwoody and the St. Cloud Technical and some of the opportunities that are out there for students in the manufacturing industry, and talking about the tuition help that's out there for many of these high-skilled workers. And so I'd like to introduce Mr. Wessels. He's going to just talk a little bit about what his role is with the industry connection piece and what he does with that and how that's working in our classroom. Wessels.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Wessels.
Thank you. I guess first of all, I'd just like to say one of the things that I took away from this roundtable discussion was just the importance of the collaboration between the K through 12 education, higher education, and then our industry partners, and kind of how we've all pulled together to really work with the students that we're serving. So I think that was highlighted very nicely in this meeting as well. So as Mr. Nyreen said, I'm Rich Wessels. I'm the career navigator, and I work with him within the classroom setting. I work with all the students that are on this pathway to explore different career options within manufacturing. So that's a big part of my position, and I also work a lot with our industry partners to provide them with opportunities to be part of this program as well. We do that through tours of local manufacturing companies. We have speakers come in. We're going to try to work on having guest teachers come in to help work with Delroy and work with the students on things that are relevant to industry, so that we're kind of teaching them the right skills that are going to be relevant for them in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Wessels.
Thank you.
Questions you'd like to ask?
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Wessels, Mr. Nyreen, or Mr. Wald? Ms. Fahey?
I don't know if this is for one of you three, but I remember in middle school the Naviance program that we used, and I don't know if I might be putting someone on the spot, but I remember using it. It was introduced to 7th graders. They did an interest survey, and then they could look at different careers and colleges. Does that program contain that capacity for like the manufacturing pathways? Because when I looked at it with middle school kids, I don't remember that part.
Yeah, I can't speak directly to how it fits with manufacturing. So the Naviance program is a post-secondary planning tool that we start in middle school, and students have access to it all the way through high school. And in it, students can explore career opportunities or pathways that they might be interested in. So they take a series of assessments, and then it pairs them toward what opportunities exist in their interests. And so we start trying to match with our young people what their vision for their future is, and then what are the requirements to get there. So if it's, I want to become a pediatrician in 7th grade, awesome. Then here's what it means to become a pediatrician. Or I want to do something with my hands and create something. Then you start looking at what education, what opportunities lie ahead of them. So then our task is to help students figure out how to match those, and I'm hoping that within our career pathways, we get good at attracting students to those areas where we have opportunity that they maybe haven't considered as a career option for them. That's our challenge, really, especially in manufacturing, where people see it as dark and dirty, and they realize that manufacturing in Minnesota is pretty clean and pretty high tech, pretty high energy places. When you go into these sites, it's really impressive how high tech they are, and just very modern environment. So I think our young people don't necessarily understand that. I didn't understand it until I was in them and realized this is a whole different world than what people might think of with manufacturing. So helping explain that is an important challenge for us.
Yeah, because that I know, I remember trying to explain to seventh graders that a four-year college is not the only option. There's a lot of other things out there. But it seemed geared towards a four-year college, from what I remember, but
yeah,
I'll have
I
to
think
have a look at it again.
within our advisory program, we're trying to become more articulate in explaining what college readiness means. And so we want our students to have the skill set to be successful in college, whether that means they go to a four-year college or maybe a two-year college or a certificate program or a union training program, that the skill set that they need to be successful in a college are the skill sets that are going to bring them success in any of those areas, or the military, for example. So we're trying to do a really good job explaining that to kids, what college readiness means. We had a good conversation in our junior advisory classes about that today.
Thanks, Jim.
I just remember when the kids were in 9th and 10th grade using Naviance and its predecessor, they did have the two-year technical programs involved in the program. And depending on how the kids answered, and I think they got more specific the older they got. They were better at answering those queries. And I also had the two-year technical books and the four-year colleges. So it didn't eliminate, it didn't just say college, but a lot of kids couldn't specifically answer things well enough to gear themselves towards anything specific.
Any other questions for our presenters?
Add one thing?
Yeah, please, Mr.
I
Nyreen.
think part of that, where you're looking for specific things with manufacturing, could be anything with construction. You heard about the construction industry. Many, many disciplines within that one large umbrella. Manufacturing is going to be the same way. And so students, when we're talking about manufacturing, it's not always just one specific job we're looking for, and that's the hard part within the Naviance or any other kind of search engine that you kind of work with. So that's another element to it.
Yes, Mr. Mullen.
Are you guys, first of all, thank you, it's a great program, but are you guys working with local manufacturing companies to set up kind of the same system of giving summer internships so they can get some more hands-on experience?
Yes, that is an area that we've worked on. There are some challenges with that when it comes to manufacturing because of the age restrictions. According to law, a lot of the students are not able to work on manufacturing floors with some of those machines unless they are 18. So that's kind of a challenge that we've run into, but we have talked with companies. We have had a couple of students last summer that had work experiences over the summer in manufacturing, and we're going to continue to look at that and try to find ways that we can involve students with internships or work experiences in manufacturing.
Just as a follow-up, I know we ran into the same problem in the construction industry, and we've got a variance from the Department of Department of Labor, so you might want to talk to them.
I have. I worked with them a lot over the summer, and it doesn't seem real easy to get based on the information I've gotten, so maybe if you have other information on that. I've gone to a couple meetings, and they say that there are, only certain ways that you can get around it, but maybe that's something that we need to continue to look at, so we will do that.
Very much love to help. Let me know.
Any other questions for our presenters? Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Fabulous program.
Thank you.
Right now, we will turn to item C2, an update from the Educational Foundation. Dr. Lovett.
Madam Chair, Connie Meny, who this summer succeeded Jenny Netto as the president of the foundation, is with us this evening in her first major public appearance as president. and Dawn Hank, our Director of Development from our school foundation. Connie, Dawn, welcome.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit of an update about our White Bear Lake Area Educational Foundation. As Dr. Lovett mentioned, I'm Connie Meny, and I'm joined by our excellent Development Director, Dawn Hank. And we thought at the beginning of the school year it'd be a good idea to just give you a little bit of perspective about what the Educational Foundation does and how we value our relationship with the school district. So I'm going to talk a little bit and give a little bit of an overview, and then Dawn is going to talk a little bit more about our legacy event and the really exciting evening we have planned on October 14th. And then share a little bit about, a little bit more detail about one of our grants, which is our Brocious Innovations and Teaching Grants. So we have a number of programs, but she's just going to focus on that one, and then if we come back or if we're invited back, we'll share a little bit more detail about different programs. So as background, the foundation is over 20 years old. And we are actually officed in this building. And our sole mission is to support the students, educators, and the work of the district. We have 22 board members, and they're made up of community members, former educators, alumni association members, and then we have a couple of school board liaisons. And I'd like to personally thank Scott Wilson, who's been just an outstanding addition to our board, and welcome George. And also mention thank you to Dr. Lovett. He attends many of our meetings and provides us updates and really valuable information about how the school district is doing. We have a number of programs that we operate, and last year alone we gave out over $120,000, which is a substantial amount of money. That really came from a number of funds that were set up early on. So initially, the foundation was started with a $1 million endowment by the Brocious family. And then the Glassroot family donated $100,000. So the Glassroot family fellowships are really fellowships that we offer to educators to improve their professional development and give them opportunities that they wouldn't normally have available to them. But we also have Ryan Art Grants, which enhance art education. We have Johnson Legacy, which enhances students' writing and journalism and media. We have a Bear Grant, which is offered to students and staff and the community working in innovative ways. We have an Angel Fund that you may have heard about, which offers opportunities for students to meet needs of our community members and students. And then the Closet, which is another one of our opportunities to meet the needs of our school members. And basically, we have an area with donated clothes and other items that students can access. So we try and meet a number of needs of the student community here. And with that, in order to kind of keep this moving along, I think I'll turn it over to you, Dawn.
Thanks. As you can hear, we've got a lot of things going on, and we get excited about all these things, and we'd love to take about 2 hours to tell you more about the work that we're doing, but we won't do that. I wanted to tell you about the Brocious Teaching Grant because that's coming due on October 24th, so teachers can submit an application, and it's kind of a, well, I don't know if I'd say a dream thing, but teachers are always looking for enhancements in their classroom, and it's a great opportunity for them to think a little bit out of the box on things that they wouldn't normally be able to have. The purpose of the Brocious Teaching Grant is to enhance the rigor of the curriculum or instruction within the school district. So, of course, thank you to the Brocious family who set down that foundation so many years ago. Just to give you an example, last year we had a 5th grade teacher, 4th and 5th grade teachers at Onika, who submitted an application and were awarded $3,000. Actually, I'm not sure that that was $3,000. They were allowed $3,000. In their case, I don't have in my notes here what they were awarded, but it impacted 300 students. And what they did was they brought in an author by the name of Lisa Bullard, who taught the kids about writing. And she spent time in each classroom, and as you can imagine with 300 kids, and she taught them about story writing and helped them develop their own story writing, and they made their own draft and edited it, and then came up with a final copy. And this was with a real live published author. A great opportunity for those kids that they may not have, and that came through the Brochus Grant. That's just one example of so many awesome things that we see. We get the applications in, and then as a committee, we go through it and look at ways of awarding money. And the best part, the reason that this is one of my favorites, is because we get to go out, the board members get to go out and surprise the teachers with their grant. And it's awesome. Many times they get a little weepy. I always get weepy. But they're excited when they're awarded and they don't see it coming, and we drop into their classroom and tell them that they've been awarded their potentially $3,000, depending on what the request is. So that's the Brochus Teaching Grant. That's coming due October 24th. We're looking forward to a great group of applications again. They never disappoint. They're always awesome requests. And then lastly, the thing I wanted to tell you about was what Connie had mentioned was our gala event. We do 2 fundraisers in a year. One of those is our June golf tournament. We've done 17 of them, and they're always very successful. And our second fundraiser is a gala that we do in October on the 14th at North Oaks Golf Club. We would love for everyone to attend. It's a great evening. And we will have, this year we have Tim McNiff. Many of you might recognize his name from Channel 11, wasn't it? And he will be our MC for the evening. We have student speakers who are always awesome, and some light entertainment. And of course, we have some really neat silent and live auction items. But of course, you'll have to attend if you want to acquire those. So we hope that you could make it. If you decide you'd like to come, you can contact the foundation office. We'd be happy to get you registered. And truthfully, this is not a sales pitch. We are on the cusp of selling out. We have 220 spots, and we're right on the cusp of filling all those spots. So if you want to come, tomorrow's a good day to register. Thank you for having us. We appreciate you guys.
Well, thank you, Ms. Hanks. Ms. Meny, does anyone have any questions for our representatives from the Educational Foundation? And I have to say, you folks are saints with all of the resources that you provide and all the opportunities for our teachers, our students, our families in need in the district. You just do fabulous work. We are so, so happy that you are in White Bear Lake for us.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Thank you for coming. All right, we'll turn to item C3, and that is the opening school report. Dr. Lovett.
Madam Chair, as I do my introduction, a cast of thousands will come forward to cluster around the microphone. Many people think that the Tuesday after Labor Day, more photos are taken than any other day of the year. They're taken on the front steps at home, around the kitchen table, and then when children come to school, their parents take pictures of them coming off the bus because the parents are so excited to see the whole process. But behind the scenes this month, when nearly 9,000 students are coming to our schools, are a whole host of folks who've worked through the summer and throughout the whole year preparing the way. And what we'd like to do is take just a few minutes hearing from the individuals behind the scenes about how we've prepared students, staff, and families for the new year, and then take a look at who our new staff are. Our board members have met most, if not all of them. Some reflections on system improvements that were put in place for this new year, and then, always of interest, our opening enrollments. So preparing students for the new year.
So, Ms. Paul, you're the leadoff batter, huh?
All right.
All
Chair
right.
Newberg, members of the board, Dr. Lovett. A key theme that you're going to hear in our comments tonight is about confidence, and preparing students to be confident as they enter into the school year is one of the best keys to success. And we are going to talk first of all about some of the things that have happened. We've done summer school for many years, but one of the key changes we made was an innovation to our elementary summer school model. And so Principal Jason Healy is going to share a little bit with you about the changes that we made and the impact that has had.
Welcome, Mr. Healy.
Thank you, Madam Chair and School Board. Yeah, I was sitting over there, I'm looking at my phone, is this the slide I'm supposed to be at? Is this the slide I'm supposed to be at? Come on up, come on up. So this is great. I don't know, if I were a kid and this is what a picture of summer school was going to be like, I think I would want to go because it looks so different than what we see every day in our classrooms. So a big change for this school year we decided was, let's offer 4 field trips that, kids may not always get the opportunity to attend during that school year. So that is what we did. We incorporated 4 field trips into a 6-week program. Now, our 6-week program, we had 84 hours of instruction, which was phenomenal. Because of our field trips, the field trips were full days, and the rest of the summer school were half-day sessions. We had 300 plus students attending each day, and the field trips are absolutely phenomenal. If you look in the bottom left corner, I've never seen I'm used to going to the Boundary Waters where there's 2 or 3, it's a 2 or 3 person canoe. I've never seen a 15 person canoe before, so that was really wonderful, and that was actually a really light load. But in that field trip at Wilderness Inquiry, right by the airport, the kids were also doing water samples and looking at microorganisms and things like that, and none of them had ever seen anything like that before. And then, of course, if you look in the upper right corner there, you'll see the Olympics. Well, this is the summer of the Olympics. So we had to have a curriculum revolve around the Olympics, and why not do the Olympics as a celebration of that? The CH Field, the kids received a tour of the CH Field, and then also got to take the light rail, which was a lot of fun. Again, many things that kids have not had the opportunity to do. A couple more things. Busing's provided for these kids at no extra charge. The lunch and the breakfast at Central and Willow were also provided at no extra charge. And then at Onique Elementary School, there was a fee for kids that didn't qualify for free introduced. So we're looking for ways to improve the program for this next summer and to make it so not only do the Central kids and the Willow students that attended those schools get those free breakfast and lunch, but also the kids at the other school. So we're working on that as well. So it was a lot of fun. I was so glad to be a small part of it, and I don't know, are there any questions?
Yeah, we can probably take questions as we go along with each speaker because they'll all be addressing different topics. Any questions for Mr. Healy?
All right.
Great program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Daniels.
Well, I just wanted to talk briefly about extended school year, and students who are on IEPs become eligible for extended school year through the IEP team decision. So we have 2 programs that are, one was located K through 5 at Otter Lake, and the other one was South Campus, which is 6 through 12. And it covered all the areas of the IEP, and the team determines in which area the student needs to have some extra instruction to maintain their goals and objectives over the summer. And also there's unique needs and other things that we consider like functional skills and self-sufficiency. So these are just some of the photographs of some of the students and some of the programs we had. And as Jason mentioned, we also had breakfast and snack for the students, which was a great hit for our kids. And several of our students work on functional skills like eating and self-sufficiency, preparing and getting their own food and things like that. So it was great to have that part of our program also. And then we also have a group of students that qualify that don't actually attend the programs, but attend with a teacher some individual kinds of instruction just for them. They might be one-on-one with the teacher or a physical therapist or speech and language person, just depending on what the team decides. So we had about 150, a little over 150 kids attend this program. And our students, many of our students on IEPs also, or work also attending the other summer school programs, so that was also available to them, but these are students that are eligible for something beyond that program, that are more related to specific goals and objectives. So,
Any questions for Ms. Daniels? Mr. Kimball?
Yes, Ms. Daniels, it's actually not a question for you. I'm just like always one person behind in my thought process. So, Mr. Healy, we just understand what ESY, the students were working on their extended goals through the summer. But who are the clientele in the summer school? Was it?
That's a great question. We triangulate our information to find out kids that are struggling or just not quite at grade level, and we want to provide them the remedial boost to get to grade level so the time they start the current school year, they're hitting the ground running.
So some were not able to do it, some were able to do it. There could have been more, or it's voluntary, all of that kind of stuff.
We send out an invitation, and it's up to the families then to decide if they want their child to attend. Yes, and so not every single person that we had invited was able to attend.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for either Mr. Healy or Ms. Daniels?
Is there a cap on the program as far as number of students?
There actually is not a cap. The key is if the numbers get super high, we have to find more and more teachers. So those are great questions. Thank
Any
you.
other questions for either of our first two presenters? All right, thank you.
Transition to high school is a big time for our young people, and when students take a college credit course for the first time, that's an overwhelming concern for some of them. This summer, for the first time, we offered what we called our 3C boot camp. 3C stands for College Credit Course, and we have over 30 college credit courses and over 1,000 enrollment of over 1,000 in those courses. And so for all of our students in our 3C courses, we invited them in to a program this summer just to help them get ready for what the college credit courses would look like and what they should expect. We had about 100 students attend and had a great day with them. The day was coordinated by James Barnett, and a number of high school teachers participated in the day. Transitions to middle school and transition to high school are big times for our students. So thinking about that transition to middle school, a really, really scary time for kids and an exciting time for kids. Our web programs at the middle school started the year out for our 6th graders. 8th graders help welcome our 6th graders to Sunrise Park and Central Middle School. And at the high school, our LINK program, welcoming our 9th graders to high school, and our juniors and seniors play an important role of helping those 9th graders understand what's ahead of them. Bree, our student liaison, was one of the students who helped with that. Help our incoming 9th graders understand what behaviors and what attitudes are going to help lead to success in high school. So off to a good start, and we distributed over 4,000 Chromebooks on the first few days of school at our middle schools and high schools. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Wald? Yes, Mr. Chapman.
Could you give a little more detail about the boot camp as far as how many days a week, how many weeks, how many hours, all that kind of stuff, and also just what were some of the specifics, I guess, in a typical day at that boot camp?
Yeah, so what types of things were they working on?
Yeah.
So the boot camp was a one-day experience. Students were there for about 6 hours. And we broke students into 4 different sessions, and so students could explore whatever topic course they're taking, right? So if our college credit course was in math, they explored what types of homework and what types of strategies are available when you're studying math at the college level, and then what kind of support resources are available so students would know how to access them. What does it look like when students form study groups, and how do you make that happen? When teachers offer study opportunities, should you take advantage of that and be part of that? What's to be gained in doing it? So those are the types of things. We also had some problem solving, and part of it was just helping students who were taking these courses for the first time, who maybe haven't taken honors courses along the way, learn to relate and develop friendships and relationships so that when they get into those courses, when school starts, they feel like they belong. Right? So team building, and then looking specifically at what skills they're going to need to be successful.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Wald? Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Gores.
Thank you. So here we go. We're going to get ready to start the school year. We've been doing these a little bit differently with our staff induction this last year, and actually started the year before, where we're trying to do a little bit more breakout sessions with our new staff for the new staff induction. And we actually started just this year with a new employee orientation as well. Our thought was, with the orientations, if we could do everything that we needed to in human resources with our staff, then we could really focus on what they might need to know at technology, teaching and learning, and some of those things in those staff induction days. So that's been very successful to date. We also, this year with our substitute or reserve teachers, did a half-day training as well, and I want to just compliment Mark Garrison and his technology staff with all that they do for all of our new staff and the training they go through. We did a little bit of a breakout session this time with our reserve teachers as well, and actually asked them to identify what level they thought they were at with technology. And so they actually got the trainings and the breakout sessions based on that level and the pace that they could really accept and learn from. And we had several people tell us that they work in other districts as well, but this was the best training that they've ever received, and that White Bear Lake's the best district to work for. So we always like to hear that. Sarah, anything else?
So it's great we started earlier with the new staff, but still the 2 days when staff come that it's focused on their orientation are the highlight for me. Their energy and excitement is infectious, and it's revitalizing. And the purpose of that 2-day staff induction time is to certainly connect. And to many of those new staff members, it feels like they're drinking from a fire hydrant, because there's so much. But it is important that we make the connection, that they see the big picture, and most importantly, that they see the value they bring to us. So during these 2 days, as we're looking at the why, and we're having conversations and having meals and doing training and understanding the big picture and having some mentoring, they are important to our success. And we really want them to understand that, and that we're doing all we can to structure for new staff members when they come into our district. So that's an exciting time. In addition to new staff members, in case you haven't figured out, the year doesn't really end. We don't pause from the end of the previous year to the beginning of the next year. There's a lot of work that goes on, especially in professional learning. And so you'll see here some of the examples that, as far as professional development taking place, we never really stop. And so over the summer, you're going to see, one example is the data retreat. Staff members, teams coming together, going deep into their data, and then making plans. Equity and cultural training. But I spent the summer, in fact, I think I see some of the staff members more in the summer, June, July, and August. We just don't stop. There's curriculum work. We had a Native American initiative. We had the literacy coaches were in. We did coaching training. We had curriculum leaders were meeting. And we were planning intensively for the Welcome Back conferences and really structuring for success. In addition,
we do some small group training around specific curriculum for our special education staff, and some of those are listed up above. Read 180, Transmath, language, and then very specific training for individual students who are on very individualized curriculum, and students that transition from a younger grade to an older grade, where the former case manager will work one-on-one with the new case manager and maybe some paras to make sure that the transition is smooth. And then we always, every year, for several years, we've done crisis prevention intervention, and that's a team that is trained annually. And the first part of the training, when you first get certified, you have a 2 8-hour day training, and then every year after that, you have an annual 4-hour refresher. And that includes all of our principals, some of our special education staff, some of our general education staff, extended day, paraprofessionals, anyone we feel might need to do some de-escalation of students and just have some really great tools to help with students who have behavior needs. And then also we had a wonderful speaker at the beginning of beginning of the school year before school started on trauma-informed practices. He was from the University of Minnesota, Dr. Clayton Cook, and he was so well received. He gave a 2-hour presentation, and we're hoping that he will come back, and he has promised to work with the general education staff, because that presentation was just all of our special education staff and service providers. So he said he would be happy to collaborate with us and come back and do some more training as the year goes on. That will fold into our mental and chemical health review. So it was pretty exciting.
Any questions for Ms. Malwitz or Ms. Daniels? Thank you, ladies.
I will just finish up really quickly and give an update of other ways that we welcomed our staff back. The main event that has been worked on by my office and by many others as well has been the opening convocation event, and I know that very many of you were there, but that was an opportunity for us to invite all of our staff members back, regardless of what role we play in the district. That was our opportunity to celebrate the start of the new year, to really remember the promises that we keep to our community, to our professions, to each other, to our families and our students, and then to our district's mission and goals in that as well. And so opening convocation was a great way to kick off the school year.
Thank you, Ms. Vetty.
Okay, so we've themed this around preparing our students and preparing our staff, and we also wanted to touch on how we were intentional about preparing our families. When we talk about being a mission-driven organization, we talk about developing the unique talents and abilities of every student. Part of that is really working with our families, because not only do we want them to feel connected to school, but we want to really learn from all they know about this wonderful child that they're letting us work with throughout the school year. And so one of the innovations that we had this year had to do with really rethinking how we start the school year. And our elementary principals and elementary teachers really put our heads together, and we wanted to take an idea that we have seen in another district but replicate it in a way that really met the needs that we had here in White Bear Lake Area Schools. And so this Welcome Back Conference idea is a way for every family to have a chance to come in, and a lot of the logistical things that you're working on through the month of September traditionally in school districts, taking care of that before the school year even starts. So we're taking care of all of the ways that we have to have them do annual updates on information, sign into accounts, as well as really getting to know this year each student and them as a reader, and having a chance for every student to have a dedicated time with their teacher to sit down and read and have a chance to really get to know them not only academically but personally, and having that time to connect with each and every family. And so it was a big change for us, big undertaking, but it was very successful, and we'll be giving you a deeper update on that later. But a lot of that had to do with a value for collaboration and working together from multiple perspectives to really pull off a great event.
All right, so we talked a little bit about how we were preparing everybody. We just wanted to give you just a brief update a little bit about our staff. I'm like Ann. I think sometimes I have one of the best jobs in the entire district, because I get the opportunity to see all of our new staff members, both our teachers and our non-certified staff, as they're just coming through our doors and excited about working in White Bear Lake. So we, at this point, have hired 54 new certified staff members. And you can see the breakdown of where they are in the district, and then 38 new non-certified staff members in a variety of different positions in food and nutrition, paraprofessionals, our custodians, and some of those. And then we have our 3 new leadership positions as well. This is just a real brief breakdown of the teaching experience of our teachers. As you can see, The majority of our teachers have 3 or more years of experience, with the average years of prior teaching experience over 6 years. So we have a lot of people that are working in other districts that are, they've heard about us, have heard about the reputation of White Bear Lake, and would like to come and finish their career here. And then this is just a slide of their where they've gone to school. I don't know, for some reason, we just like to know how many of our new staff are Minnesota graduates, how many come from the upper Midwest, and what the other breakdown is.
Thank you, Ms. Gores. Oh, I have a question from Mr. Chapman.
At some point, would we or will we be seeing any more in-depth breakdown or information regarding the new hires, such as how many have advanced degrees versus undergraduate, and also demographic data? As we, I think everybody knows here, the board has had an interest in ensuring our staff is reflective of our student population, which is increasingly becoming students of color. So,
absolutely, we can get that information for you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anyone, any other questions for Ms. Gores? Thank you. Dr. Kazmierczak.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. So we're going through a series of topics. First, student transportation, then we'll have an overview of facilities, and then nutrition services. So I'd like to welcome Mike Torito, our Director of Transportation, to talk a little bit about the summer and the kickoff of the school year.
Welcome, Mr. Torito.
Thank you, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Lovett. So this year's been really interesting. It's my second year starting the school year, and the first year we learned a lot about the first month when I came in July. So it's been a real eye-opener, to say the least. We're hoping to continue on improving service in the district as far as transportation goes. We rerouted the entire district at the elementary level to be able to address the transfers in the district. We were able to do that with the addition of about 3 buses. So it worked out really, really well on the southern part. We've had to add a bus at Onika and Hugo just due to population. As well as we brought 8 regular routes back into the district. We hired drivers and brought them back into the district, so there's no more Rabine transportation. We absorbed those regular ed routes, as well as we added 7 vehicles to the district fleet, 2 of which we bought week before school, so we were scrambling, to say the least. Right now, we're sitting with about 3 spare buses on our lot as far as regular buses. So our mechanics have done a wonderful job. They have inspection tomorrow. Let's see. The big goal this year is to implement the mobile app. That's our big goal. So we're going to start, we have all the technology pieces that we need to start that, and we hope to have that all going somewhere in time around the holidays. So any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Torito? Yes, Mr. Wilson.
Not a question, Mr. Torito, just I conveyed this in an email to you and everyone that was on that string, but I just want to commend you openly and for the on-air viewers about the tremendous job that you did basically during the days leading up to the first day of school when we were closed. I know I'm going to speak specifically about the Hugo Onika Lincoln parental request that you received, and to come up and work out a new bus stop plan when school is closed. You got the request at 4:30 on Friday, and you had that plan implemented before start of school Tuesday. Is just an incredible job. And please pass my congratulations on so hard work and good effort by you and your entire staff.
I will, thank you. I couldn't do it without my staff. They do a wonderful job. So.
Questions for Mr. Torito? Yes, Bree.
Could you go more into depth about the mobile app?
The mobile app it will work with our GPS, which is on the school buses, and you can download it on your phone. It'll tell you where the bus is on the route. So if it's running late, it'll send you text messages. There's different levels and different degrees of which we can set that up.
That is awesome.
So, yeah, something.
So when it's 20 below zero, your child can just dash out the door at the very last minute. They know where the bus is.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Torito? Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Roser, Mr. Dan Roser and Scott Larson and Kevin Fernandez will be up to talk about the summer, but I believe you're kicking it off, Dan, so.
Welcome, Mr. Roser.
Thank you. It's been a busy summer in building operations and grounds. I want to start things off by acknowledging our custodians. They kind of the unsung heroes during the summer. It's amazing the things they get accomplished. They just go room to room from floor to ceiling, and if it can be clean, they clean it, and they did a fantastic job. I wanted to highlight one thing here. We did a wood floor seminar. We wanted to teach our custodians. We usually contract our wood floors out and have a vendor do it, but now we're going to try to bring that in-house. So we trained the staff over at Matoska, Lincoln, and Willow on gym floor sanding and refinishing, and they turned out fantastic. And it was pretty neat just to see the pride in our own workers' eyes of doing a job like this and having it turn out just like the professionals do. And then Scott, Kevin, and I are just going to highlight, we had dozens and dozens of projects. We just want to give you guys a little variety of some of the things that happened over the summer. This photo here is of the senior center. The senior center got painted this summer and all new flooring. We had flooring in the senior center that started to curl and became a tripping hazard, so we were able to close it down for about 8 days and totally paint it and put all new flooring in. This is our North Campus ceiling and lighting project. The photo on the left is the before photo in the same spot as the photo on the right. As you can see on the left, many of the ceiling tiles, after years and years of humidity, they just kind of would fall down from time to time. The lighting was very dim, and then the finished product on the right shows our new LED lighting and our new ceiling tiles. It just made a huge, huge difference in the appearance over at North Campus. And I hope some of you have seen the new gym floor over at South Campus. Hope you can see a volleyball game one of these days or a basketball game in the future, but beautiful new floor. We worked on the graphics with the staff over at South Campus and the coaches. One thing that, as we were having the plans drawn up of the floor, everybody said, make the bear paw bigger. So we'd have the flooring guys do a drawing with the bear paw bigger, and we'd send it back to South Campus. They'd say bigger, bigger. This is about number 5. We've got a huge bear paw at center court. It looks pretty cool. We also painted the walls. We're working on LED lighting right now. That should be completed by the end of this week. And we painted the weight room and fitness center. It looks fantastic over there. And at our middle schools, Sunrise got new lockers last summer. We completed our middle school locker project by putting new lockers in Central this summer that match Sunrise's, and we also added band instrument storage cabinets at both Sunrise and Central, and we did some remodeling to make way for orchestra students this year. Scott?
And welcome.
Thank you. I just want to talk about 4 projects that was going on here. A couple of us HVAC projects over at South Campus in the 300, 400, 500 wing. Also over at Sunrise main office, 200, 400 wing. And also we had some roofing projects over at Birch Lake and Lake Harris Elementary, and also we have summer maintenance. On this picture here, the picture toward your left up there is some of the classrooms in the 300 wing. In the 400 wing, we had to replace some of the supply systems over there so we get better airflow. Picture on the right is what the finished product looks like. We have new ceiling grid, new ceiling tile, supply diffusers. Also, we installed occupied sensors for the lighting. All the other classrooms over there that I call it kind of light construction, we cleaned the supply ductwork, and we also installed occupied sensors for the lighting. Also, this picture here shows on your left there all the V8 variable air volume boxes, reheat coils out in the hallway. Those are all for the classrooms, media center, and also for the AV area. Picture on the right is the finished product with brand new ceiling tile, grid, and we use existing lighting, and we also put occupied sensors in the hallways for all the lighting. This is a facility projects that we've done. It was roofing over at Birch Lake on the left-hand side. Contractors are installing contractors are installing the 4-ply built-up roof over the insulation. And the picture on the right is contractors taking all the existing roofing down to the metal deck. They also installed brand new roof drains, new roofing material, and they also installed curb flashing and the cap. This here is our district facilities for summer maintenance. We got the picture on the left-hand side. It'll be your left up there is the custodial. Our maintenance team is finishing up work on a univent and also doing some work in that classroom there for maintenance. We had I sent out 2,600 maintenance work orders that we completed over the summer. In addition to all those there, we also replaced 79 steam traps in the tunnels at 9 facilities. That's the picture on the far right-hand side. That's some of our maintenance staff in the tunnels of the building. And also we changed out 60-plus 150-watt bulbs down to 17-watt LED lamps in the theater over at South Campus. That's middle picture. And we also did our district-wide preventative maintenance on our roofing all the way through the whole district. And we also upgraded our existing building automation system software at the district center, Central, Lincoln, Birch Lake, Vadnais, Lake Harris, and Matosca. Any questions?
Larson, yeah, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, Mr. Larson, without looking at the gentleman standing behind you, do you have an idea of how much savings we're looking at by replacing the bulbs in the theater with LED lighting?
Well, actually, we'll be saving actually a lot more money because each bulb was 150 watts per bulb, and we're dropping that down to 17 watts. So that's
which translates into a reduction of how much per year in operating costs? Do you have an idea on that?
No, I don't. Okay. Nope.
I think it's going to be pretty significant.
Yep. It will be a lot of money we'll be saving there. So
good.
We also save a lot of money too because we won't have to keep doing maintenance and change out the bulbs every year.
They last
2 years.
A lot longer.
Yep.
Yeah, Ms. Newmaster.
I'm always amazed when I come back in the fall or when I come in and out of the buildings in the summer and see the transformation. And as someone who has cleaned my own house, I can't imagine the jobs you guys do all year. But when the kids come back in the summer, it looks like new. It always looks amazing. And you work in the worst heat on second floor, inside, no air. I mean, they really are heroes, and it looks great when you come back. So I'm just impressed. It's really good. And someday you'll have to tell us the truth about the tunnel between North and Central.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Larson?
I just have a comment. I want to echo what Board Member Newmaster had said. It's amazing when I walk into the various schools with the 3 kids at 3 different campuses. I have 3, one at Otter, one at North this year, and then Central. And it is just amazing when you walk into those buildings to see what's been done over the summer. And I really, really like that floor down at South. I've been on that thing, and it's sweet. So appreciate that. I do have a question, and this has probably been addressed, I would guess, in work study sessions that we've had. Whereabouts at Central did we make room for the orchestra program? I can't recall.
We ended up putting it in, there used to be 2 classrooms right across from the band room.
Oh,
And we ended up taking out a wall and making the 2 classrooms into one big orchestra room. And we air conditioned it, carpeted it, and turned out pretty well. I think the teachers like it.
You put the risers in and everything there too?
Nope, they didn't need risers for orchestra, but we've got new furniture and we've got storage for the instruments coming, and it's a nice room.
Thank you.
Questions? Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Roser, I was working the concession stand at Saturday's girls' soccer game, and one of the, not at the soccer game, but regarding the football games, comments were made from some of the spectators that the lines were a tad long at the porta potty facilities there. And so my question is, could you and your staff look into that and see if there's, any additions you could make? I don't know if your budget would allow it or whatever.
Definitely. I think Mr. Fernandez could probably speak a little better about porta potties and what he brings in and what he takes out at certain times of years, but yeah.
Porta potty guy. Yeah, if you could look into that, I'm sure people would appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Oh, good evening. For the summer, I could wrap up kind of what we did or summarize in about 3 different areas. We focus a lot on exterior. We've talked about that, the first impressions. What do people see when they first come to the school district? And so we try to make an impact on all 17, 18 locations that we have an effect on, that somebody along the line, we touch each school in one way or another. This one here is an example of before and after of out here, just a district center. And I kind of segue this into my next thing we kind of did this summer, and it has to do a lot with the outdoor teaching spaces, which is becoming a very popular thing in the state of Minnesota. And we've partnered with some principals, building staff. This actually turned out to be in the past few years, we've focused on meet and greet areas with benches and a welcome feeling where a teacher can take a classroom outdoors and they can have 10 to 12, 15 students that sit around and they can share the class time outdoor setting. This element now becomes one where, and I can focus on here. Like here, this is Matoska, a before and after shot of Matoska, where they had, years ago, they came up with wild plants, native look, and all landscaping over time needs to be redone and spruced up and cleaned up. This was a great example of where a staff member at the school, Carolyn Kay, spearheaded a project here where they took away the prairie ground, the prairie grass, the look that was kind of wild. It was still an outdoor teaching space. They would take students out and teach them about the plants. And the new plan here, you can see much more improved, more open. They're going to put in some teaching stools where the students get to sit down in the seats, a podium maybe for the instructor. But then in addition to just going outside and having a classroom setting outdoors, these are actually designed to teach the students about what's outdoors. The plant materials, those students will have hands-on where they'll do some weeding, maybe some planting. They'll talk about the plants in addition to the other curriculum in the program. In addition, the one on your right here, same thing, Christine at Willow actually spearheaded a big program there, which was involved with a number of grant applications, funding that she got from various locations. This is actually the beginning stages of a pathway you can see there on your right-hand side. That's where students will walk down through the classroom. What you don't see in this particular slide is on the right-hand side, we created a large teaching area, teaching space. This year they'll have some logs for seats. Next year that'll transition into benches with a podium for the instructor. And again, this becomes an area where this is stage one. Now this fall they're going to do a dormant seating where it's all native, natural plants. Again, the students get to walk out. It's a very natural, sort of like tamarack. Sort of relation to like Otter Lake, where this last year they did that wild prairie, the planting, and now we spent a lot of time this summer redeveloping and widening and putting down mulch on that pathway. So it's really become a big thing in Minnesota to take the students in the outdoor setting and teach them not only about the curriculum that's, maybe a classroom setting, but outdoors where they can learn the plants and the materials and various elements. And that's really what a focus of ours was this summer, is to partner with those staff members who, a lot of times we come up with the vision, we come up with a plan, where, like here at District Center out front, where you just needed more places for people to sit, congregate, meet for all the elements and functions that go on in this facility. And then it's so versatile. You can use it for a number of different things, and it's been very well received. And to partner along with principals, teaching staff, we also partner along with community members who volunteer their time and are very priceless when it comes to adopting a landscape plan. We have a gal up at Hugo right outside our window. She's adopted this landscape design. It's all hers. She loves it, and it reflects the school very well, and she takes pride in that. Others help with ball field. It's just limitless, really, what they do. And so a lot of ours this summer was cosmetic first impressions, partnering in with the staff on these outdoor teaching areas, and then, of course, athletics. We did a lot with, the track was resurfaced at the stadium. Tennis courts at Sunrise are just finishing up right now, and then numerous ball field improvements. So that was basically our summer. Lots of rain.
Questions for Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Hernandez, you're kind of in my wheelhouse here as a former earth science teacher. So let's go back to Matoska. When you re-landscape that, the plants that you put in, were those prairie plants as well?
Yes, actually the plants at Matoska are all being done through Carolyn Kay and whatever program she's come up with. So we don't really have a lot of involvement in this. The overall program at Matoska, what they did there, our role in that was quite small compared to the vision that they have of this entire
I understand,
process.
those are tall grasses, prairie grasses that are on the left, and they can be hard to manage. But it was a point of emphasis from the state that we, especially on public lands, that we reestablish as much native prairies plants as we can, just to have students and really the general population learn more about the original regime that was now developed and everything like that. So as long, I was just checking to make sure that you were replacing shortgrass prairie plants instead of the long grass. But as long as it is in the line of prairie restoration, that's good.
Right. In fact, we're working with a company called Prairie Restoration.
Okay.
For the Willow Project in particular, and that's it doesn't look like it in this slide, but it's a massive project. It's very large in scope, and we're going to work with them for the next 3 years. They'll actually come in and they're willing to help teach a little bit about the process. We've got a plan that they came up with working with the county on what goes in, what plants they want, from plugs to seedlings to where it's going to be in 3 years from now. It's certainly something we've jumped right on board. Central, right out here, down in the bus loop, is another great example of that, where the county came through. We worked hand in hand with them. We're on our 4th year now. We've actually taken it over this year of the maintenance and the care, and then they come through and inspect it. So
aside from the aesthetics, the advantage of the prairie grasses, whether they're tall or short grasses, they have extremely deep root systems, which mitigates a lot of soil erosion, which helps a lot of things there. Okay, forward to Willow Lane. Was that a rain garden? Or
Yes,
is it intended to be a rain garden?
yeah, well, no. This was when they did the parking lot last year. They just needed a place to put the water. This was a big open field. It was really just a drainage ditch. It was an area for the water to flow, seep through, has a 24 to 48 hour seepage that's required. And to Christine's credit, she came to us and said, hey, I want to do something. We were going to let it grow up and just kind of do a natural growth, whatever. Keep it mowed, keep it down. And there's a lot of bee pollinating plants that they can put in that aren't right in an area like that. Well, like here to the left, the sign here at ALC. Those plants we put in there were specifically for bee pollinating plants to promote that. Of course, we're not doing it in the prairie grounds where the students are going to be walking. But this was actually kind of no man's land, and it has been for years. And to come through now and turn that into a teaching space and a teaching classroom was huge. We're actually going to be weed whip, mowing down, cleaning up the green space that you see there as soon as probably about a week and a half prior to Prairie Restorations doing their seedlings.
My recommendation would be to consider that as a rain garden installation. Tremendous teaching potential with it.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I know at Willow that Chris worked with getting a grant from, wasn't it Ramsey County Watershed District?
Correct.
Plus working with Prairie Restorations to combine the water part with the prairie plants, and then looking at they do the inside out with Minnesota, so doing science things out there, other classroom teaching space at the Willow one. And then I know that years ago at Sunrise, we got a grant from the University of Minnesota, and inside a courtyard, we have prairie plots that were used for long-term ecological research that we sent our results to the University of Minnesota.
Yeah, it's actually very exciting. You know, we do more than cut grass and plow snow, and it's neat to be a part of, or order more portable, units. We will do that, but it is something that along the way we get involved in these teaching opportunities in the classrooms, which, the staff we have, they love doing it. I know some of you watched as the gals planted the materials out here and have been in the ditch and have been to Willow and the various locations, and they take it serious, and we had a great opportunity for that with them. So, and speaking of Sunrise, the county does want to come in and do some more rain gardens. They've identified 2 locations at Sunrise to actually take some of the water from the streets, and we're partnering with them to do that. So,
the only thing that we wanted to do at Sunrise, they wouldn't let us, we wanted to do a prairie burn.
Oh,
Because it was inside the courtyard, they decided
That'd be a
no,
little
it
tricky.
would be too much spectators for the kids around.
Right.
But, so we didn't do that part.
Any other questions for Mr. Hernandez? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Bridget Lane, welcome.
Good evening. I'm here again, my second year as well, as with Mr. Torito, to talk about nutrition services. So we're working through this year again to increase our offerings and improve the quality of our school meals. I heard a couple of people talk tonight about our summer meal program, which is great because I'm here to talk about it as well. We went up from 6 sites last summer to 9 sites this summer, and we served about 9,500 more meals this summer than last summer. So that's a great improvement for us. We also had 2 community sites that joined us this year, so we weren't just serving students in the different classes, we were serving kids in need all around the community. So we're pretty excited about that. We are also working with our NutriSlice menus. As you know, we started that last year, our online menu system. There's some enhancements. If you look at it online, it's much more appealing to the eye. It also has some print enhancements as well. We had parents asking for one-page printing options. NutriSlice came back after we asked them for that and said, it was your idea, do you want to pilot it? And so we did. Most things can get onto one page. The font can get pretty tiny to get it down there, but it does get to one page. They can also print by the week now if they're interested, or they can continue using the mobile app or their desktop versions. We also have a lot of new foods this year, some great things. We listened to our students, our families, the advisory committees. We heard one thing over and over again at the secondaries was the lines were too long. We realized mostly that our salad bars weren't being used, only on taco day. Otherwise, we'd be up to 20, 30 kids, and that whole line would be unused. So this year, we added an entree. We actually piloted this at 2 schools last spring, and it's at all the schools now this year, so we see lines even out over everywhere, and there's extra or more meals for all the kids, which they really like, and it gives us an opportunity to try some new things, such as a barbecue beef sandwich. Today, there was a pepper jack beef gordita. I happened to be at Central and had mine with me, so I was opening it up, showing it to all of the kids, how they could build it, put some onions on it, put some jalapenos and sriracha, their favorite thing, sriracha sauce. Speaking of, on Monday, we have probably our most exciting thing in my mind is salmon bites with a sriracha aioli, which is on our salad bar. The idea being that they can build a salad with a salmon bite as their protein and go through the line. At the elementaries, we're continuing with our vegetarian options every day. So we have a Southwest black bean burger as one of our new items, trying to increase the options, not only being cheese, but for some other protein choices in that vegetarian line. Then we have and chicken Alfredo, which they can choose meat or meatless, and we're continuing with some of our homemade items. So we have a new spaghetti sauce recipe. That was something we tried over and over again, especially with those advisory kids, both the secondary, middle schools and the high schools. We tried 5 or 6 different spaghetti sauce recipes to get to the one that was approved, and I had many comments come back. It was on the menu today as well. And then we're doing a homemade sesame beef and continuing our homemade chili and working on soups for the winter. So a lot of new items coming. And we'll also start with pine tree apples in a couple of weeks. We work with Paul Farms in Apple Valley, which is where we get most of our green peppers this time of year. Of course, we have our local milk companies and then some other companies around, such as Johnny Pops and Mix Me, and of course General Mills and Land O'Lakes. So we're keeping our farm to school and local product movement going, hoping to increase that throughout the years as well. And then we also did a Smarter Lunchrooms initiative, which is where we trained all of our staff, actually in the South Campus Theater this year. We had a trainer from the University of Minnesota come over, and she did 2 hours on Smarter Lunchrooms. The goal there being to move our lines so that we encourage the students to pick the foods that they will eat, but encourage the healthy foods. So ideas being make the fruits and vegetables first, so they grab those while they're hungry and get them on their tray. Make them exciting, so maybe at the elementaries making some names that get them a little bit more excited about the carrots. The big name they come up with is X-ray vision carrots. We haven't gone that far yet, but studies show that it increases it. So we're kind of working on naming, signage, and getting the kids excited about the healthy options that we have for them. And then lastly is our student partnerships. We're excited to keep moving here. We have 5 schools that are working with South Campus, special education, and Transition Plus students. They come in for a couple of hours a day and help us out in the kitchens. They help by washing dishes, putting them away, panning up, and just overall watching and being with the kids. It's a pretty great experience, and I tell you, our kitchens they look forward to them every year. They're an integral part of their kitchen, and they really utilize them as an employee and appreciate having them. One of our schools was fortunate to work with a community group, Phoenix Alternatives, as well, and she has an adult with disabilities that comes in for 2 hours a day, and trying to increase her a little bit as well, to start with panning and some other activities in the kitchen to keep her engaged, and something different for that group as well.
Any questions for Ms. Lane? Kimball?
Not a question, just a comment. I had not been on Nutrislice.com, but I am now, and that's pretty amazing. If I'm a parent, I'm going to be opting for the school lunch and not packing a lunch, because you have things such as a whole grain roll, and there's descriptions.
There's descriptions, pictures, the place to leave a comment, nutrition information, and hopefully soon allergy and ingredient info as well.
Yeah, I just have to do this though. This whole grain roll. It brings that special home cooked feeling to just about any meal. Its soft goodness is sure to have the kids who packed a lunch looking all puppy dog-eyed at your kids, just begging for a bite. That's awesome. That's so good.
George, you haven't had dinner yet, have you?
We should probably add in there that it's a local Franklin Street bakery bread as well.
All right.
That's just really cool.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Lane.
Thank you.
Extended day.
Thanks. Good evening, Madam Chair, School Board, Dr. Levitt. Main theme around extended day for the summer is growth expansion, especially with our early learners. Goal for us this upcoming year is to expand our Flex program, which serves our 5th to 7th graders. Similar program to extended day, but in the middle school level. The goal behind that would be the continued implementation of content area learning, where kids can learn what they take what they learned during the school day and have an ability to apply that after school hands-on application during the school day. So that's kind of our main area of focus with the Flex program right now. So.
Very good. Any questions? Short and sweet.
Short and
Thank
sweet.
you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good evening. Looked at technology this summer kind of from three perspectives. How are we supporting students, how are we supporting staff, and how are we supporting teachers? So from the staff perspective, we've got the Tier 1 field technicians, 8 former digital learning specialists, building support technicians from our staff who are filling 7 FTEs now in the Tier 1 field positions. We've got 4 Tier 2 field technicians up from just 1 last year, and that's made a huge difference in terms of just the bottleneck of tickets, that we're just seeing a much faster response and a much quicker turnover to tickets at this time this year than we were at this time last year, just because we've got more advanced help out in the field where it's most needed, especially at this time of year. And that's meant that the Tier 3 people, the people who work here out of the district center, Peggy Netto, Gene Rasmussen, David Allison, Pat Succo, Chris Hodman, Steve Asper, and myself have been really able to focus on some of the bigger system things and really serve in more of a supporting role rather than in what we've often done before at this time of year, which has been kind of a triage role. And so that's meant that this good system work is continuing to move on throughout this year. And then our digital learning specialists, who had actually planned on spending the beginning of their year doing some kind of initial just kind of pitching their new position to staff and talking about their role, have actually just been super busy and are booked out for weeks to come with staff meetings and a real desire from staff to get them in to help them get the year started off on a really strong note. So that's been really wonderful to see. And then in terms of students, a couple of things to note. First of all, our Chromebook 1-to-1 is now in grades 6 through 12. And Tim Wald noted that we handed out, thousands of Chromebooks over the span of just a couple of days. And Ellen Fahey put in really just a great job at North Campus for us in a pretty hot room. And I think as we roll out, as we try different things at different schools, we learn what's most effective. And we've got some really good models now, both like floor plans and staffing models about what exactly we need for next year to hand out the Chromebooks as efficiently as possible. So we're really excited about that. And Ellen, again, thank you very much for your help.
And
we now have, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, and I'll have a few suggestions for setup, but
Yep.
it went pretty slick for the first day in that hot room.
Yeah, a bigger room and a few more staff seems to have done the trick at North Campus or at South Campus, where we handed out the same number in about 90 minutes. So that's our goal for next year. So stay tuned. We now have over 7,500 student devices district-wide, and it's something we've really been working on to try to make sure that as we pay attention to the one-to-one and we are supporting students in their technology use at the middle and high school level, that we're also paying attention to the needs of the elementary, and it's been, I think, a very good balance. And to get things started off really well, one of the jobs of our digital learning specialists, along with the classroom teachers and the media specialists, is to really make sure that students have a good understanding of digital citizenship right away at the start of the year. So we've got a lot of really strong lessons going on through partnerships across the district in terms of that. And then we've talked in board meetings past about the need for increased parent support. I had a fantastic meeting today putting almost the finishing touches on some new parent resources that should be on our website by the end of next week. And then our digital learning specialists, who are really spearheading that work, are going to work with each building's PTA and building leadership to plan events at each school. And that might just mean showing up at a PTA meeting and answering questions, or it might mean having a specific parent night where students even are teaching some skills, almost like we've talked about, almost like a little kind of like a speed dating model, where the students would sit at tables and parents would go around and have 10 minutes on Google Drive or 10 minutes on managing the Chromebook at home or something like that. So some really good resources there. And then we've got the ways that parents can contact us here and get help, and a lot of good resources out of my department as well. So a good start to the year for us in terms of staff and students and parents, and a lot more to come in these next few weeks.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Garrison? Mr. Wilson?
Really a request, Mr. Garrison. Let's let this school year start rolling first, and say 2 months from now. Would it be possible for you to present quantified data as far as the effectiveness of the support plan this year versus last for a comparable period of time, whether that's time from the request being submitted to the time that it's acted upon, number of requests per day, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think you'll see this come up in the superintendent's strategic plan report too, of that comprehensive audit of that program. And we'll have preliminary data for you in a couple of months, but really it'll be once we get through the whole school year and we've got that comprehensive year-long data that we'll have a really good sense of where things are at. But I will say anecdotally, we're already hearing back from both teachers and staff members in the field, and also from our own staff, from the Tier 1 people that are out there in the building saying, here's a place where my job needs to be clarified a little more. Or we had a Tier 1 specialist at Hugo and Onika sees a lot of new families because of being at Hugo and seeing a lot of those young families. And she said, hey, if I had the ability to change parent passwords right on the go, I could just serve these people a lot more quickly. So we instantly got that for her. So I think in a sense, just having that dialogue has been really helping. And so it's not like we'll wait for 2 months before we put those efficiencies in place, but we'll certainly report back as the year goes on about how things are going with some specific data, like you said.
Very well.
Chapman?
This summer, did you, Mr. Garrison, use, I would guess so, the high school students to help refurbish and do minor refurbishment and repairs and cleanup of the existing Chromebooks?
We sure did, yep. We hired about 20 middle school students that worked this summer. And it's great, we hire these students at the start of the year, and then we hire enough that they can just work when it works for them. So if we just say, if your family's going to the beach on Friday, then just don't sign up to work that day, and there's no pressure from us. And what happens is by the end of the summer, we end up with this real core group of students that are really passionate about their work and really want to stick with it. It's a really fantastic program, and I think a great work experience for these students who have a tremendous amount of pride in the amount of impact that they're making on the district. About 6,000 devices went through our office this summer. Students touched almost every single one of those. So it's a huge impact for us in terms of just physically cleaning the old devices that came in, last year's Chromebook 1-to-1, and then setting up all our new devices that are going back out. So a little mix of both. And then a lot of also like cardboard management, just like unpacking boxes and kind of the unglamorous side of the tech department too, but that's really necessary.
Great experience.
Yeah, and it's wonderful for us. So.
Ms. Newmaster?
So the ones that were collected in the spring and stacked at North and wherever, did the kids go to the schools then and clean them?
Yep, and we actually have you don't want to leave a computer for 3 months without charging. So we also have a rotating charging schedule where we'll go around and move power cords over the course of the summer to make sure that
they were in a huge stack, I'm sure.
Yep, and we go through every single one of them and make sure that that they're recharged over the summer, take a look at them, identify any needs for repairs, and then hopefully take care of those over the summer.
So how many kids actually were working on 6,000 Chromebooks?
Well, we hired 20. At any given time, we'd have 4 to 6 on any given shift, and we'd have a morning shift and an afternoon shift. There were a few students who worked both morning and afternoon, but for most of them, working one of those two was about the amount of time that they could stay really productive, and then it was time to go do something more summery for them. Mm-hmm. So that was great.
Good. Other questions for Mr. Garrison? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, opening enrollment. So I'll cover K-12 enrollment, and then Mr. Morrow will be back up to talk about our preschool enrollment figures. So you've had a chance to look at this data. I'm going to move on from this slide and just cover the highlights. Certainly flip back to that if you would prefer as we go through this. The big number that stands out this year is that we have 125 more students, K through 12, at the start of this year than we did a year ago. So that's good news. That's an increase of 1.5%. You can see the figures there. So we're approaching 8,300 students in grades K through 12. Our largest grades are at the elementary level, so 3rd, 2nd, and 4th grades in that order. One thing that's interesting about 3rd grade and 2nd grade is that they actually picked up a fair number of students over the summer if you compare the cohort. So last year's second graders at the end of the year compared to this year's third graders at opening, that grade actually picked up around 30 students. That was that's unusual. Second grade, I believe, picked up about 14 students. And then the other grade that picked up quite a few was first grade. So from kindergarten to first, we picked up about another 10 students. So the thing about enrollment is it does fluctuate the first couple months of a school year, so we'll monitor that. But again, that's a good sign heading in. If you compare those figures, the largest grades to our smallest grades, 10th, 7th, and 11th, 10th and 11th in particular, those are secondary grades. So as those exit, these larger groups are moving in. That's a healthy situation for a school district's enrollment. So for example, last June we graduated about 595 seniors, and this year we brought in 636 kindergartners. So just with that, as you're exiting smaller classes and bringing in a little bit larger classes, you tend to grow. So we're growing that way, and we're actually picking up some other students in particularly the elementary grades. Now, I do want to mention one thing. This might be getting a little bit into the minutia, but this usually impacts secondary grades a fair amount. There's what's called a 15-day drop. So if a student doesn't show up to school for 15 days, then they get dropped from the roll. So another big enrollment day for us is after 15. So October 1st enrollment is an important number, and that's what a lot of our state aid is based upon from the state, in large part because of that. We sometimes don't know when students move on to a different school or move out of state. So that typically impacts secondary more heavily than elementary. Please stop me as I'm going. I mean, if you want to go back to the more detailed slide, I'd be happy to. But so just a few more comparisons. So we have 80 more students this year at the elementary level, so that's up a little over 2%. And of that, 58 of those are in the northern part of the district. So over 4%, that's a pretty good growth rate of 4% in an area of a school district. So we've monitored that in the past, and this year it's a little more pronounced than it has been in the last couple of years. And then this year we have 43 more students compared to at the secondary level compared to last year. Last year we actually decreased year over year at the secondary level, and this year we're actually up as of the opening. So those are the highlights. I'd be happy to answer.
Yes, Ms. Fahey.
Just, I could probably look this up, but just, do you know offhand the 7th graders, like what number is at Central and what's at Sunrise, since we know there's, usually more in the north end of the district than the south end?
Yep, if you give me a second, I brought that. You're asking 7th grade in particular?
Yeah.
Okay, Central has 321 and Sunrise 256. And overall, we have 1,029 at Central and 828 at Sunrise. So we have a bit of an imbalance. Yep.
Mr. Wilson? Yeah, Dr. Kazmierczak, I am merely curious. Where does the boundary between the northern and southern elementary schools run?
We consider Otter, Onika, and Hugo to be the northern, and then
Everything
all
else
else is south. Yep. Mm-hmm. So just in sheer numbers, there's more in the south, but the rate of increase in the north is greater. Yep.
Any other questions for Dr. Kazmierczak? Yes, Ms.
Got
Newmaster.
one quick one. Do we still see the pattern that the kids that have gone to private school join us in middle school? Do we get a bump at that point? We used to, I know, sometimes in 8th or 9th grade.
We had end of last year, we had 598 5th graders, and we're at 615 6th graders. So possibly, I think we have to, that 15-day drop, I think we have to wait just to let the numbers settle in a little bit more. But that was, actually, that was a typical increase at the middle school. So we actually picked up a few in each grade at the middle school level. So 17 in 6th grade, 12 in 7th, and 13 in 8th. So I'm not sure if there's a bump due to the private schools. I think so. I think typically at 6th grade and at 9th grade you would see a bump. 9th grade, Yeah, a little bit more of a bump. 597 at the end of the year, up to 626. So increase of about 30.
Any other questions for Dr. Kazmierczak? Thank you very much.
Kind of follow up again. I mean, again, the numbers at our early childhood programs and extended day kind of speak for themselves. Are continuing to rise again. You can look at the numbers for the different areas up there across the board. And as as a new person coming into the role into the district and seeing the increased number of kids participating in our early school programs, really excited for me to come in. It says a lot about our program. It says a lot about our staff and our district, about all the families coming in, bringing their children to us at an early age. And as I go around to meet the staff and introduce myself, get to learn who they are and what they do and what they're passionate about, a genuine common theme that they do not take for granted, that they are, for a lot of families, that first experience they have at the school district, and they want it to be a good one. So as it kind of mirrors my mentality of why we're here and what we're doing, it makes me excited to, as I look down the road in the future here, to work with everybody and kind of increase those numbers and increase our opportunities and have all the families in our district have a great experience.
Those are impressive numbers. Any questions for Mr. Moore?
I'm going to add a little context, if you don't mind, to the figure at the bottom. I don't know if you can have it. Oh, you guys can see it. 286 enrolled as of 9/2/16. Our preschool program opened today, and then tomorrow will be the first day for some of the little ones as well. So that 286 figure is certainly considerably higher than we were a year ago. I think we want to temper that, though, until we know exactly where we end up tomorrow. And we're also some of the data. Well, the data prior to 2015 and 2014 and prior, we're able to pull that confidently from our Skyward system, but as of right now, we are using our FeePay system to see who's registered, so that data has to get transferred over in our Skyward system. So I would just temper particularly that last number. We may very well be at 286 students once we take a look at it tomorrow. We might even be a little bit higher than that. We might be a little bit lower than that. So we don't want to overreact to that figure, but we think we're as we talked at our work session, we're getting to a point of we don't have enough space for these little ones, and we have it's another healthy thing that we have to work through, and I think we have options going into the next school year. But so we'll try not to overreact to that number until tomorrow. So
thank you very much. Any questions?
Nope, just to carry on for our extended day, I think the numbers up there are from last year, so you can see the percentages there. But as of today, for extended day, we currently have 844 kids enrolled and 49 students on a waiting list, which we will continue to welcome those kids in as soon as we hire appropriate staff to fit our ratios. So we do expect those numbers to go up during the school year as well, as long as our student-to-staff ratios remain attainable. So.
Very good.
And then just a very quick wrap up here to, of course, with all of the opening school activities that are happening, it is, of course, to welcome our students and families into the school. We have got leaders in the schools who are doing a great job, whether they've been with us for a long time or they're brand new, just like our families, who are, some of them have been here and know exactly what's going on, and others we're getting to welcome in for the first time. And just a quick tidbit about this. Of course, you all maybe all remember that it was a rainy day in White Bear on the first day of school, and that didn't temper any of the excitement that the students and the staff members had. So we thought it was fun to start, or to end with this start of the school year, which was all smiles and umbrellas. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that is the end of that agenda item, I assume. We don't have more people lurking in the wings?
No, Madam Chair, we brought out everybody who's been working all summer.
All right.
In terms of the superintendent's report, which is about an hour and a half later than it normally is, I'd like to start off by acknowledging the work of everybody who has worked through the summer. We've spent some time telling the story of why things are ready and look so nice and work those first days of school, and the sense of of community, of culture, of teamwork this summer has really been remarkable. And I'd like to thank everybody who came this evening. Some of you always come to school board meetings because you figure that's where you need to be, but others have been here the whole evening, and just a real tribute to your work this summer and getting ready for the school year. Activities calendars, always popular, were sent out to all of our families the week before school and are available online or from any of our schools. Homecoming is coming up. We might want to tell more about it, but that's coming up before the next school board meeting. It'll actually be the week before the next school board meeting. If you want to learn more about our school district on a daily basis, you just have to remember 624. Every Friday there will be a 6.4 second video. You have to sign up on Facebook if you want that. And every morning, if you sign up on Facebook or Twitter at 6:24 a.m., you will be up and waiting for your daily fact. Senior Activity Pass, we remind folks of this, especially at the beginning of the year, and the opportunity for community members who are age 65 or older to apply for this pass will give them access to all of our school activities. And my final point is on promises we keep. Next year, next fall, I intend to apply for a senior activity pass, and I've let our staff know and our community know this week that I will be retiring at the end of June, and I will be graduating with the class of 2017. So, Bree, your report.
So first off, what an exciting back to school week in White Bear Lake. Students returned engaging with past teachers and with friends, and just very eager to start off the school year on the right foot. We had cross country, soccer, swim and dive, cheerleading, tennis, and football, all beginning their after school time, so they're back in the swing of things, the normal schedule. Also, we had our music programs back in action, including our fall musical, which had its auditions for Mary Poppins. We are looking forward to another fabulous production by director Masuya and the upcoming cast and crew. Lastly, South Campus had its very first Chromebook distribution, which went very smoothly. For the seniors, it was the first time we all had a one-to-one based technology tool. And if you're ever at South Campus and you have some technology issues, you can come on down to our Tech Depot, which is ran by faculty and students. One of my favorite parts is that it's ran by students, and so if you ever want that peer-to-peer interaction, you can see a familiar face and ask them some technology tools. But overall, it was just a fantastic back-to-school week here in White Bear Lake, especially in the high school.
Well, thank you very much, Bree. Thank you very much, Dr. Lovett. We have no discussion items tonight, and only 3 action items, so we'll turn to E1, and that is action to approve the school board superintendent goals and strategic plan priorities for 2016 to 2017. We've had a very healthy opportunity to review these in previous work study meetings, so I will first entertain a motion to approve those goals and strategic plan priorities for 2016-2017 as reflected in our packet.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Chapman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kimball. Any discussions or questions? Yes, Ms. Newmaster.
I just had one thing that I just wondered if it was put in there by error. Goal 1, Strategy 4, we will create a district culture that inspires innovation, a passion for learning, and confidence to pursue dreams, which is admirable and great. And, you know, in progress, we've talked about our technical plan. The one below, streamlining of print services, I think is an error because it's really a budget goal. It's not a curriculum goal to remove all the printers or copiers or something. It saves money, but I'm not sure that it's inspiring innovation, passion, and learning and confidence to pursue dreams. I just think it's misplaced. I'm not sure why it's there. So, and when you look further down at the boxes, it's not in those boxes. So I just think that was one of those things that you kind of put in there as you're thinking up stuff, but it doesn't belong there.
Dr. Lovett, did you want to address that?
Yeah, perhaps we could comment on what that is. I could ask Mr. Garrison to explain what that is and why it's in the placement it is, But you're right, it doesn't have to be in that placement, it's just in the cluster of some other things. Would you like Mr. Garrison just to explain what that is and how it fits in with our other technology work?
Ms. Newmaster, would you like Mr. Garrison to address this?
You know, I can understand that it's, and we talked about it a little bit, it's inspiring, saving money and not using as much paper, et cetera, but if it's in this spot, which is creating a district-wide culture and all the other fine statements, and we're looking at curriculum and learning, I think this is a budget thing that just doesn't go there. I'm sure there's another place for it in the economics.
Ms. Fahey?
I did have a question about that, just because, and I know I asked some questions today in terms of it was the first time I saw it in a goal, and it confused me unless, you know, my question today was this something, since I've just been on the board since January, something that was included in the goals? But it seemed to jump out at me because it was like, okay, either I've missed something or I've never seen that particular. And I would be interested in just a brief summary of, you know, from being in the district, I think I know what that means, but I would like just a brief explanation as what we actually mean by that, so everyone hears the same thing.
Madam Chair, Mr. Garrison?
Madam Chair, members of the board, just a little history on the print audit. A couple of years ago, we were looking at some budget reductions in the district, and printing came up as like a really obvious place where we could make some budgetary cuts, but because of the way that print services were managed in our district at the time, it was very difficult to get a singular clear number and to really make systemic improvements to our print infrastructure. We had at the time 133 different models of printers deployed across our district. And if you think about the technology, staffing, and cost associated with maintaining that number of different devices, it was significant. We had 2 independent print audits of our infrastructure, and they came in and suggested, kind of looking at industry best practice, here's where you think we should go. We took their recommendations, sat down with leadership at each building and said, here's what they're recommending, how does this mesh with your program needs at your building? And principals and other leaders at the building would go through and say, okay, this all looks good, except this printer that they're saying has to go here actually needs to stay because we use that color printer for flashcards that we print off for our special ed students every day, and it has to be in that room. So then we'd add that one back in, and it was kind of a give and take like that to make sure that we had a more streamlined infrastructure, but also one that met the program needs. And the cost savings are significant. $150,000 a year is what we're projecting if our print infrastructure stays the same. That'll be about $750,000 over 5 years. And the big reason is because a lot of these legacy printers that we had in the district, like your home printer, might cost 20 cents a copy to make a copy on. Now that people are using the larger production machines that cost about 1/3 cent per copy, that reduces the cost of that single copy by 1/60th. And it's a significant number that really makes a difference pretty quickly over time. We've also added some more efficiencies into the system. For example, when we went around and did the print audit, we found on one day $400 worth of just copies sitting unclaimed at printers that were like people printed off but never came back and got. On another day, $750 worth of copies that were just sitting there that had no one was ever going to pick them up. They were things that people printed and then moved on to the next thing. Now we print to a queue, and you actually go to the copier and release the jobs that you want at the time. So we don't have to have cover pages anymore, because we don't have to say, this is Ms. Fahey's copies, because you stand there and you release them. So some efficiencies like that should actually reduce the amount of waste in our system will help to get us up to that number. Does that answer your? Yeah.
That's all fine and well, Mr. Garrison, but can you define the nexus between the situation you just described and the goal, which is inspiring, innovation, passion for learning, and confidence to pursue dreams? Everything you described is budgetary.
Sure, certainly fair enough. I think in terms of the work of my department, the way I look at it, Dr. Levitt, you want to?
Dr. Levitt.
Madam Chair, I want to acknowledge that the information about the print is not in the document that you're being asked to act on tonight. It was some additional information that was included in the slides accompanying the program. So the document you have in front of you this evening for action is exactly the same as the one you saw in at your August work-study session. Again, this is the part about the printing with some extra information that we were putting in when we were preparing for a potential presentation. So in that, we did combine some things that were in the objectives and some other work that was going on. So in answer to Ms. Newmaster's question, Mr. Wilson's question, this is not part of the action for this evening.
Right. And if it were to be, we'd probably put it in the financial section rather than.
That would be fine, yeah.
In.
But there is an impact on instruction, and as I look at it from a 40-year career in the Media Center, a lot of what you're doing in making kids copies, and now there's no copier in the Media Center, what we're doing is providing scaffolding for learners. And when we didn't have copiers and had to always run to the main thing, it was very difficult to support kids because they need individualized copies. Not everything is digitized. It's not cheapest to always print it off on the laser printer that's the computer. We would tell kids, we'll copy it from the book. So very often you're creating something for a kid that's Read 180 or has an IEP or can't look at a computer screen, and you need to do it for the kid. So there is an instructional reason that you're making copies. And I do know some of the ones that weren't picked up was partly because for a while they couldn't tell where things were going. It got much better as the year went on, but there was some real confusion during part of the year, and they'd ask for it to print, and they would not be clear where it went. So, I think things got much better as the year went on, but I do think there's a real instructional reason that people make packets for kids, not just homework for kids that are at home, but kids that are at school that need things in print that they can take notes on and highlight and tactily hold.
Well, Ms. Newmaster, your comments are well taken, but what Dr. Lovett said is that what we're considering right now doesn't deal with the printers at all.
Even though it's in here, it's really not, as part of what we're moving on.
What we're moving on is that color-coded spreadsheet that we've been dealing with every work-study meeting.
Right, so this was just added in.
That was added as a face sheet, so that would not be what we're voting on tonight. Mr. Mullen.
I just have a question, and if it'd be possible to add, is that I believe it is Strategy 1. At the top of the second page, it talks about the curriculum and developing for the development and alignment for manufacturing, IT, construction careers. I'm just wondering if it'd be possible to add a healthcare initiative in there too.
Madam Chair, Sarah Paul, Assistant Superintendent. So the suggestion is on page 107. Action step 1.4, where we're currently listing, the district will consider other options, including but not limited to the implementation of career pathways, and then AVID, increasing opportunities for STEM and other programming. Am I in the right place there?
I looked at it as back to page 92, but I think it was 92. Let me go back. Trying to.
Goal 1, Strategy 1?
Goal 1, Strategy 1, it's at the top of page 90, it looks like 92 or 97 on mine. Talks about alignment with manufacturing, IT, and the construction careers pathways. Looking to add a healthcare pathway.
So Chair Newberg, members of the board, Dr. Lovett, we definitely have included healthcare as part of our conversations because it's one of the fields that it's aligned with a lot of opportunities as students enter into that field. I think the reason why we did not include it was because we want to make sure to go deep on manufacturing, construction, and IT, but we are more than welcome to make that change because it has been part of what we're setting out to do. It's just that we're farther along in the other three than healthcare, so I think that would be the rationale why it wasn't explicitly included, but those are the four main career pathways that we want to focus on, so that would be a good addition if it were something the board wanted to do.
And although it wasn't explicitly included, the language is including but not limited to. And I know we have been in conversations about expanding that. Mr. Mullen and I have discussed that, expanding this into the healthcare arena as well. Would that meet your concern?
I'm fine with it.
All right. Any other discussion before we vote? All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's take a roll call vote on this.
Newberg?
Aye.
Newmaster?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Chapman?
Aye.
Fahey? Aye. Kimball?
Aye.
Mullen?
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. We'll turn to our second action item, E2, and that is action on a grant to the Library Media Program. Either Mr. Garrison or Dr. Lovett.
Well, I'll invite Mr. Garrison and Media Specialist Connie Sterling, who is really the inspiration and update from what we were doing last year. Mr. Garrison, Ms. Sterling.
I'm thrilled actually to be here with Ms. Sterling, who wrote this grant, and will do the balance of it. My job here is just to introduce her and just give a little bit of context. You'll remember that our partnership with Ramsey County Library goes back for quite a while, and we also have a strong partnership with the Washington County Library System. Last year, when they were looking for a district partner to work around the White House's Connect Ed grant, because of our success in working together in the past, they turned immediately to us. And because of that work, we were one of about 60 districts nationwide that were included in the White House's Connect Ed program. And Dr. Lovett went with other leaders out to D.C. to take part in the kickoff of that program, and I think it's been really successful. Incidentally, tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of the Connect Ed program, and there's some celebrations around that. And tomorrow is also the first day of welcoming the new Ramsey County Library Director. And if you have time tomorrow from 4 to 6 at the Ramsey County Library is her welcoming party. So we're really excited about that. To bring Connie Sterling into this, we worked with Ramsey County Library on having these paired library cards that worked at the middle school, and those cards would work both at school and at home. And you heard last year from students and staff who have utilized that. Ms. Sterling took this a step further in her grant, and she's here to tell you about it.
Sure. Where's my button that I push?
This one right there.
Okay, thank you. I had the opportunity to apply for a Library Services Technology Act, I abbreviate that LSTA, a mini grant back in the spring through the Department of Education and State Library Services. And I wanted to take a look at bringing the shared cooperative program down to our elementary schools. So this is the quick synopsis of what we did. We just created a very simple grant to start sharing this library cooperative with elementary families and students. It's got 3 parts, nice and simple. We've already implemented the first part where we had public librarians at 3 of our elementary schools for the Family Fall Welcome Conferences. Families were welcome to find out what kind of services libraries provide, apply for library cards if they wanted library cards, get more information. We also used those evenings to promote our October 13th open house at the White Bear Lake Library for White Bear Lake families and students. Libraries usually closed on Thursday nights. This particular Thursday night, the library will open again at 5 o'clock for us to have an evening for families to participate. I do have printed invitations for all of you to remind you and invite you to that evening. And then our last cooperative event will actually be a staff development program. Public librarians will work with those of us elementary media specialists and will provide, during a professional staff development day here in White Bear Lake, a program with staff to talk about services that the library has and ways that they can be used in the classroom with curriculum and ways that students can use them to help do homework. It's a small grant. It's not a big flashy one, but it's a nice way to continue to work between the public libraries and the school libraries. And then here's a quick reminder of our open house evening in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So it was a lot of fun to be able to bring this to our elementary families and our elementary schools as well.
Well, Ms. Sterling, kudos to you and the work you did to secure this grant. Let's get a motion on the record first. We have a recommendation that we accept the Library Services and Technology Award mini grant in the amount of $1,809.30 as recommended by the administration. Is there a motion? Motion by Ms. Fahey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Newmaster. Any questions for Ms. Sterling regarding this? Mr. Chapman?
Not a question, but just kudos again. I mean, you mentioned, small grant, every little bit helps, and so appreciate all the work and effort on your behalf, or on behalf of the students, on your part. Thank you.
Right, this is a financial matter. It calls for a roll call vote.
Newberg?
Aye.
Newmaster?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Chapman?
Aye.
Fahey? Aye. Kimball?
Aye.
Mullen?
Aye.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sterling. Good work. Right, we'll turn to our last action item, E3, and that's action on agreement with a facility planner. Dr. Kazmierczak.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Back in August, we talked about our facilities planning process for the coming year. We talked about engaging a demographer to do some work for us to get a good handle on our enrollment and population projections. And we also talked about the need to bring in a professional to help us conduct an assessment of our existing facilities and find out the current state of those. And so those two things, the demographic work and also the site assessment, would lay a foundation for us as we move forward and as we consider facilities work down the road. One thing I want to mention about the item before you, if you recall, we also talked about long-term facilities maintenance, a 10-year plan. We talked about the possibility of issuing long-term facilities maintenance bonds. So what we would do before we would come to you to the school board to ask to issue those bonds would be to make sure we have a well thought out plan, and that's part of what this work would do for us. This site assessment will help us revise and update our 10-year plan. It's been a few years, we've done a lot of work, and so that would be another benefit of doing this now, is that it would help to inform that long-term facilities maintenance plan. So the proposal before you is for this coming school year. It'd be a site assessment of 16 sites conducted by the DLR group, in particular Mr. Chris Gibbs, along with some of his colleagues, to go ahead and do that work as outlined in the proposal. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you
Right,
would
we'll get
have.
the motion on the table first. We have a recommendation that we authorize the DLR group to proceed with the facilities planning as specified in the July 15th, 2016 proposal, which is attached to our materials, and I believe the amount of the contract is $16,800. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kimball. Any questions for Dr. Kazmierczak? Mr. Mullen?
You feel comfortable? I know that we've talked about this several times, and you feel comfortable with this group?
I do. I personally met with at least 3 other firms over the last 18 months or so, where they came in and they met with me, and DLR Group actually met with Dr. Lovett and I. We feel confident they can do the work. I've done some reference checking on them. They've worked with a few area districts, including Minneapolis and St. Paul. Jordan, they just completed a big project with Jordan. They've worked with Forest Lake. I know I have some connections, having worked in rural Minnesota, I have some connections in rural Minnesota as well. And so I visited with Bemidji superintendent. I visited with Bismarck Public Schools superintendent. So I did a fair amount of work in checking their background, and pretty positive work. And again, I just want to emphasize, what we're asking them to do is a fairly narrow scope of work. We're not going to conduct a major comprehensive planning process. If we move into that, we would conduct an RFP. So we would invite in firms. We would have a committee of sorts to interview professional teams, and we would make a decision at that point. But so this is a little bit more narrow focus. This is a site assessment. So I feel comfortable. I think Dr. Lovett feels comfortable. We've done our due diligence in terms of checking with districts who've worked with them. We did meet with others. The district, just for your reference, the district has worked with other firms in the past, and LHB is one in particular. There's some benefit, I think, to bringing in some fresh eyes and taking a look at our facilities, and so that was one of the groups that we considered. But we think it's this is probably a better direction for us going forward, at least for this school year.
Any other questions for Dr. Kazmierczak? All right, we have a motion and a second. This is a financial matter. This calls for a roll call vote.
Newberg?
Aye.
Newmaster?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Chapman?
Aye.
Fahey? Aye. Kimball?
Aye.
Mullen?
Aye.
And the motion is approved. Thank you, Dr. Kazmierczak. We now turn to the final item on our agenda, and that is board forum, an opportunity for board members and student liaisons to share any upcoming events or any other matters that they wish to share with fellow members of the board. Does anyone have anything for board forum tonight? Ms. Fahey?
Real quick, I'm sorry about the time, but as the liaison on the American Indian Parent Committee, I attended a meeting in August, and they are working on setting up an Ojibwe language and culture class at North and South. I'll get more update next Monday night at the next meeting. And they're also working on setting up math tutoring classes for the students.
Wonderful.
So I'll be finding out more about that on Monday night's meeting.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Kimball?
Yep. Just real quick, I want to welcome Bree again. And I would welcome Hakeem, but he's not here anymore. But welcome to Hakeem. And all of the new staff that are starting the year and all of the veteran staff, good luck on the rest of the school year, a great start of the school year. Special welcome to new staff, including our new staff in the viewing audience here, Mr. Langsdale, as the Otter Lake principal. Good luck to you. We sure had a all-star team presentation here made up of all of you. And I'm sure you just were happy to be here for your presentation, obviously, and then to spend the rest of the evening with us. There were a couple of announcements of retirements, and I'd just like to acknowledge that a third grade teacher from Onika, great teacher, 26 years in our district, has retired and is on this agenda, so congratulations and thank you so much. And then we had a announcement of a superintendent retiring as well, and there will be more said because this retirement will take place at the end of the school year. But I just want to note, and again, it'll be noted again, I work with, I have the pleasure of being in a couple of organizations that work with school board members, district officials, education leaders throughout the state, and in some cases the nation, and White Bear Lake is very well thought of. I've been here prior to Dr. Lovett and was among the team who did the hiring, and this district, if we use a ship analogy, you always need a captain, and the White Bear Lake Area Schools ship has been well sailed, well directed by this captain, I think, and we are, comparatively to those who know education and on a state and national level, very well respected. He's well respected, and our district is extremely well respected for all of the innovations, partnerships, student progress, great staff, all of those things. And so we are very thankful, and we're going to miss you when you're gone.
Mr. Kimball, anything else for board forum? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
And I second, we are adjourned.
Great.